Hello, today on my channel you will hear an amazing story about life. I hope you enjoy this story. This one struck me to the core. Honestly, I still can't forget it. Enjoy watching.
"Jack, help me please," his wife asked him. "Lucy, what's wrong?" He came up to her. "Look, there's a leaky faucet," the woman said as she fiddled in the kitchen. Now the couple lived in a nice apartment. Expensive furniture, appliances. The husband helped his wife with everything. And now when the faucet broke, he could have left it for tomorrow because he had things to do, but he went under the sink to fix it. "Oh, Jack, why don't you and I get along with the kids?" Lucy was telling him. Don't hurt her feelings. Jack turned away from her. Sometimes he felt guilty about himself. Can you imagine how much we could have given the kids? Some of them are sleeping under the fence with 2 or 3 kids. Why doesn't God give us? It must be because of that sin, Lucy thought. She would sit down at the table, put her head in her hands and start crying. "Don't cry, darling. It'll be all right. Believe me," Jack hugged her. He loved his wife very much. "No way. The years go by. We're not getting any younger," she sobbed. "Listen, love, why don't we do IVF?" he asked her. Lucy raised her head. She liked this question. She had been nurturing it for a long time, but she was afraid to continue to her husband. In the first place, it is expensive. In the second, it is necessary to prepare for a long time. But now, when Jack himself suggested it, Lucy was not at all against it. "Why, can you arrange it?" she asked him. "Well, I'll make a couple of calls. I think we'll get a good deal," he said. He kissed his wife on the cheek, wiped her tears and hugged her. And then the long preparations began. Lucy spared nothing. She quit her job, dieted, did everything the doctor said. And then finally the operation took place. Now she had to wait a little longer to see if the fetus had taken root or not. When Jack brought Lucy home, she was afraid to move in case she slipped or fell. She was lying in bed. "Lucy, you're not sick," her husband used to say when he saw her acting up. "Oh, I'd better be on the safe side." The woman was very worried about something. Maybe it was nerves, or maybe it was just the way it was supposed to be. But it didn't work out the first time. "Don't be upset. We'll try again," her husband told her. "No, that's it, Jack. I can't do this anymore. If it doesn't work again, I'll lose interest in life," his wife told him. "Darling, have you made up your mind?" He came up to her. "Yes, I've made up my mind," she said. "Maybe we should consider adoption." He tried to give her some more ideas. No adoption, no echo. She put her head in her hands again and cried, and then Lucy went into a long depression. Jack and Lucy met when they were both students. She was in teacher training, he was in medical school. Lucy was a fun-loving girl, but only in the dormitory or at the institute. She didn't like to go out because she was always learning lessons, making notes, making plans. And then the girls came and started urging her to go out. "Lucy, why should you sit here in the dorm alone? Come with us, you'll have fun," said her friend Julia. She closed her notes and looked at her friends. "Well, what is it to you, so beautiful and sit here alone?" "Cuckoo," said her girlfriend. "Maybe I like it. Maybe it's my life." Lucy did not know what to answer her because she really did not want to go anywhere. "Come on, girls, let's go." They turned around and went. At that moment, Lucy was offended that they had offered her once and that was all. They used to beg her for an hour. "Well, wait, I'll go with you. I'll see what you're doing there." She got up from the chair, but now she had to put on something nice. "Do you want me to give you my dress?" Julia came right up to her. "Well, let me try it on." The girl didn't mind. Julia pulled out of the closet dress, of which she had a great number. No matter how many times she put it on, Lucy was forever admiring such beauty. "And what, can I go straight out in it?" Lucy asked her. "Of course you can wear it, and don't even think about it," Julia said. "And I can give you some beads." Angelica immediately jumped up. Lucy was pleased that her friends loved and appreciated her. She put on the dress, tried on the beads, which went very well with the outfit. She put on a little lipstick, and together they left the room. "Well, Lucy, I don't even believe that you are coming with us today." Julia walked beside her and whispered, "What's the big deal?" Lucy didn't understand. "Well, where shall we go?" The girl didn't want to talk about it anymore. "I don't know." Angelica shrugged her shoulders. It was spring outside. The warm days had begun. "Maybe we should go to a cafe. They have a summer veranda, said one of the girls. Oh, that's a great idea. Julia approved. The girls walked a little in the park. The fountains had been turned on recently, so it was very beautiful. Afterwards, they actually went to the cafe they had talked about. The girls took one of the tables. There was practically no one here, but by the evening everyone should have arrived. Live music was playing. It was so nice and romantic. Well, who's going to order what? Julia asked. Me, ice cream, said Lucy. What are you doing? All the girls turned to her. What's the big deal? You can't have ice cream. She didn't understand. Everyone laughed, and in the end everyone ordered what they wanted. When it started to get evening, it got a little dark outside. People began to gather in the summer veranda. At one table there were some young guys sitting at the table, discussing something loudly. Look how cute they are, Julia said in Lucy's ear. What are you doing? You dragged me out on the street, and now you want to marry me? Lucy looked at her seriously. Oh, Lucy, I just showed you the boys and now you want to marry them. Julia took offense at her. Lucy got up from the table and went home. At the entrance, she accidentally bumped into a young man. She looked at him. Young lady, you'll have to excuse me, he said to her then. Okay, you'll excuse me. For some reason, Lucy thought he was going to start swearing, saying something insulting to her, and she was ready to fight back. But the guy was polite. He smiled at the girl, touched her hand, and went to his company. But before he reached his table, he saw that Lucy didn't go to breathe fresh air on the porch, but went somewhere else. The guy waved to the guys, showing that he would be right there, and he ran after Lucy. Girl, wait, he shouted to her. And Lucy increased her step. For some reason, she was afraid now. Yes, she had left alone, but she would never go back because her pride would not allow it. Finally, the guy caught up with her, stopped her. What do you want from me? She turned to him and glared. Where are you going? He asked her. Young man, what do you care? Did you want to hear something else from me? She said to him. He didn't know what to say, so he said the first thing that came into his head. He remembered it was 2 minutes ago. Lucy was nervous. Can I walk you out? The guy asked. He was circling the girl. Okay, Lucy had no choice. Either go with him and feel confident or go alone and be scared the whole way. There was no telling what else could have happened there. They walked and talked, getting to know each other along the way. The young man's name was Jack, and he was in medical school. Tell her more about yourself, he asked her. I've said all I can. Lucy lowered her eyes. She laughed the whole way. Jack turned out to be a very pleasant young man. He told various stories, joked, showed something to the girl. Finally, they reached the dorm where the girl lived. She didn't look at the young man, not knowing what to say goodbye. Okay, bye, he touched her. The skin was soft. Goodbye. Lucy went to her room. She went to bed, but sleep wouldn't come to her. She kept thinking about this guy she had met today. It had to happen. All this time she sat in the dormitory, never went out, only studied. And then she went out for a few minutes and met him right away. She said out loud. Lucy really liked Jack. He was handsome, tall, and funny, which was important. Lucy heard laughter in the hallway. She realized the girls were back. She turned her back to the wall so no one would ask her any questions, but no one wanted to ask anything. Her friends didn't go into the room. They went somewhere else. Lucy didn't need that. She continued to think about Jack. I wonder if we'll meet him again or not, she thought to herself. Today, Lucy fell asleep with a smile on her face because she realized that if they met this Jack again, she would not miss her chance and they would start dating. Lucy, there's someone to see you. A friend came up to her in the evening. Who? She looked up. Who? Grandpa Pito. Jack, your friend from last night, her roommate told her. Her heart beat faster in her chest. Lucy began to worry. Her hands were shaking. She didn't know what to do. She had a simple bundle on her head and was wearing a robe. How to go out like that? And then she stopped in front of the mirror. Stop. If he wants to talk to me, if he likes me, he'll like me like this, she said. She changed her slippers and went out into the hallway. The girl went down to the watch. He was standing there all dressed up, with flowers. Hello, he said to her, as if not paying attention to her appearance. Hello, Lucy answered him. I take it you weren't expecting me, he handed her the flowers. If you will wait for me a few minutes, I will change my clothes and come down, said the girl and blushed, because she realized that she had done wrong. Sure, I'll wait. He sat down on a chair that stood there, and she went back into the room. So Lucy, tell me if the girls were waiting for her. What can I tell you? Guys like a guy, she started to change. Yeah, I see. A guy like a guy, she never left the dormitory, and here she is dressed for a walk with a young man, her friend teased her. Enough already, huh? The girl looked at her. After that, she came out to Jack, and they went for a walk. I'm sorry I'm not inviting you anywhere. The scholarship doesn't allow it yet, Jack told her honestly. And I did not think about it. Lucy looked at him and realized that this man is very decent. So now they continue to walk every day. How long have you got left to study? Lucy asked him. Oh, a lot more, he said. I see, the girl thought to herself. A doctor is not an easy profession, as long as the institute, then internship, and then, Jack continued to say. I see, and next year will be my last year, the girl answered him. It's good. Now you'll graduate from the institute, we'll get married, then we'll start working. We'll have an apartment, children. Jack began to reason. What? She stopped. Come on, I'm kidding, he laughed and hugged the girl. When summer vacation came, Jack and Lucy were already a couple. They went everywhere together. They didn't need anyone else, neither girlfriends nor friends, only if she or he were near them. Come and visit us this summer, Jack suggested. Are you inviting me to meet your parents? She asked. Well, why not? He answered her. Okay, and then you come to our place, she told him. Agreed, he agreed, looking at his beauty and smiling. So, almost half of the summer Jack spent at Lucy's, and the next half she spent at his place. Everybody liked their son's fiancé. It was all very well. When school days came again, Jack and Lucy came again to this city. They began their studies. Now they were dating. It was getting serious. One day Jack went to meet Lucy, and she was nowhere to be found. Go to the park. She's there, her roommate told him. Jack found Lucy, indeed, in the park. She was sitting on a bench, crying. What happened? He asked her. Jack, how could we let this happen? She asked him. What happened? I asked again. He couldn't understand what could have happened. I'm expecting a baby. She looked at him with eyes red from crying. Jack fell silent. I don't even know what to say, he answered the girl. And you say something? Tell me how you could do this. She continued to cry. Honey, come on, we'll think of something, he said. Do you want to get rid of our child? She didn't understand. Well, why are you so rude? Why get rid of it? Look how young we are now. We don't need this child at all. In a year or two, we'll get married. Everything will be fine. We'll have an apartment money, and then we'll be able to think about children, he told her. Lucy looked at him. She loved this man very much, so she believed him now. Jack had made a deal with someone, and now Lucy was in the hospital. They didn't take any tests from her. They didn't ask her anything. They just did everything they needed to do. Now she was in her room, coming out of anesthesia, and she was crying again. My dear, don't cry, please. I promise you that everything will be fine, he told her, but she just clung to him, sobbing and believing in what he said. The girl graduated from the institute. Now she could go to work, but Jack was against it for some reason. Why are you against it? I don't understand, Lucy said. It turns out that I'm still a student, still studying, and you've already gone to work, he told her. What's wrong with that? The girl looked at him incomprehensibly. Lucy did not listen to him, went to one school, to the second, to the third. When the girl settled, she was assigned a room in the dormitory. She told Jack about it. He was very pleased. Now the young man and the girl lived together. Well, now we can play a wedding, Jack said to his favorite girl. Let's not wait for anything, just touch a student wedding, laughed Lucy. Well, why not? In the dormitory, we'll put tables in the corridor, invite everyone, sit, celebrate, Jack told her. That's what they decided. There were no proposals, no rings, nothing. Everything modest, everything homemade. Jack's parents brought something, Lucy's parents brought something. The young people were really doing well. Somehow all the stories were forgotten. Now the young people were living together. Jack's studies, internships, and everything else were coming to an end. Lucy was already firmly established at school, so it could be said that life had taken place. But there was one thing missing from the young family's life. Lucy could not get pregnant in any way. At first she kept quiet, didn't say anything to anyone, because she didn't want to be discussed or anything. But at school, her colleagues, mother and mother-in-law, kept saying only one thing, when they would have grandchildren. But Lucy couldn't do anything about it. Sometimes she thought it was all Jack's fault. If he hadn't forced her to have an abortion then, maybe now they'd have a bunch of kids running around the house. But as it happened, it happened. She loved her husband very much, so she didn't say anything to him. And then one day Jack and Lucy had a big row. He was very tired. He came home. Lucy was doing something. She asked Jack some question and he didn't answer. She came into the room. "Why don't you answer me?" she asked him. "You asked something, I'm sorry. I just didn't hear." He was sitting on the couch, looking at some magazine. "Jack, let's talk about this straight." She sat down next to him. "Okay, if you want to, let's talk," he told her. "You remember, you made me have an abortion. I think that's why I can't have kids." She wasn't looking at him, but in the other direction. "You wouldn't believe it. I've been thinking about it myself. I blame myself. I don't know what to do." He was very discouraged. Lucy felt ashamed that she was blaming her husband alone for the situation. After all, he had only offered and she could have refused. She had her parents. She could have called them. Then she and her mom would have decided what to do. "I'm sorry." She turned to him and hugged him. "No, Lucy, it's you who forgive me." He kissed her. The years went by. Lucy worked. Jack worked too. He was climbing higher and higher up the career ladder. At the hospital, first he was an assistant surgeon, then an assistant, and finally he became a surgeon himself. Lucy was becoming more and more withdrawn every day. She had a headache. She kept muttering to herself, "Nin, what's going on in our family?" Jack asked her. "Nothing, it's just you and it's just me. But if we had a child." She stopped talking because she realized that she was going to say something offensive to him again. "And what if we had a child?" He looked her in the eyes. "Nothing." She turned back to the stove. "Lucy, please forgive me for being a fool. But I was young, stupid. I thought that now you'll give birth. You won't build a career. You'll break everything." He pressed himself against her. It was at that moment that Lucy started shouting all sorts of hurtful things at him. "You're a doctor. Why can't you do anything?" She looked her husband in the eyes. "Well, my love, don't get upset. I'll definitely think of something," he promised her. At that very moment, Jack arranged to have IVF treatment. He hoped that everything would be fine after that. But when it didn't work out and his wife became depressed, he didn't know what to do next. Yes, he asked her to try again, but Lucy didn't want to do it. A year passed, the second. The woman still worked the same way. She always thought of her children with fondness. The neighbor downstairs had a daughter, and she looked after her better than her mother. "Lucy, maybe we should think about adopting a child." Jack approached her again. He thought that if she felt that way about the neighbor girl, she would feel the same way about the adopted child. "No, I've already told you that adoption or fostering is out of the question. It's either yours or none," she told her husband. "Well, let's try IVF again. Medicine has advanced further now. It won't be like last time," he promised her. "Are you sure about that?" His wife asked him. "I can see how upset you are." "You think I'm not upset with you," he told her. Lucy walked over to her husband. She sat down, put her hand on his shoulder. "You know how I'm scared. You haven't experienced what I've experienced. When a child is conceived inside you, it's an inexplicable feeling. Yes, you can tell me that I haven't felt it yet, that it never happened, but it's not true. A woman, when she learns that soon she will become a mother, she immediately begins to imagine how she will hold the baby in her arms, how everything will be in the future in their family," Lucy said, and cried again. "Everything, my love, I promise you. Don't cry. Everything will be fine. Tomorrow we will go to the appointment. You will start to prepare, and I will make arrangements for future surgery," he said. Now Lucy was 38 years old, and she finally decided to take this step. And again, a whole year? Taking pills, dieting, preparing, going through all the doctors and all the other procedures. Finally, the doctors had done their job. Now it had to wait again. But unlike the last time, now the woman was walking. She was practicing. She was reading up on some breathing exercises. She was doing it all. Jack supported his wife in everything. When time passed, all was well. The fetus had taken root. Lucy couldn't believe it. She had no idea now. She didn't think about a future child until the belly was visible. She hadn't even told anyone that they were going to have a baby soon. "Why don't you tell anyone about it?" Jack asked her. "Quiet, and you don't talk about it either." She put her finger to her lips. "Are you afraid of jinxing it?" Jack smiled. He was so happy, not just for himself and for Lucy, but in general, that they had made it all work and would soon be happy parents. Do you realize how old we are? Now we're going to have a daughter or a son. And what? They'll call us grandparents, Lucy kept saying. What are you talking about? Look at you. You look like a 30-year-old girl, her husband told her. Thanks for the compliment, of course, but still, Lucy turned away. Well, that's one problem gone, another one be done. So what did you want more than anything, pregnancy or youth? Jack laughed at her. Okay, it's okay, and as long as it ends well. Lucy was worried about that too. Don't even think about it, you'll have a scheduled C-section, and I'll be the surgeon, he told her and kissed her. Even though so much time had passed, but he, as in their first meeting, admired her and loved her very much. Lucy went shopping. She looked at various baby clothes. She knew that you cannot buy anything before the time, but still, sometimes she could not stand it and bought. Kippers, cradles, onesies, everything was so small and pretty that she just couldn't resist it. Why did you buy so much stuff again? Jack used to come home. You see, I couldn't resist, Lucy told him, and he understood her. The doctors, as well as Jack himself, watched Lucy's condition. On a certain day, they admitted her to the hospital because it was too risky. She lay in the ward, and Jack looked in and out of it incessantly. On the second day of her stay in the clinic, it was late evening. Jack was very tired after the operation, but he couldn't help stopping by Lucy's room. Lucy, my love, are you asleep? He opened the door, but there was silence in response. He realized that the woman couldn't have gone anywhere, so he went in and turned on the light. Lucy was lying on the bed. She seemed unconscious. Lucy, Lucy, what's wrong with you? He began to pat her cheeks, but she didn't come to her senses. Then he went out into the corridor, called the orderlies. They put her on a gurney and took her to the operating room. Everything was done very urgently and quickly, because there was not a minute to lose. Jack was now standing by the operating table. He had just finished another operation, so his eyes were blurry. There was a very strong fatigue, but the man realized that he had to save his wife and his child. Anesthesia, various medications. Lucy's blood pressure started to drop. Jack cried. He did everything he could, but the man failed. When the baby was removed from her belly, Lucy's heart was still beating. Her husband did everything he could, but he couldn't save her. Right there in the operating room, he fell to his knees in front of the gurney and just started screaming. They sedated him, took him to his room. Lucy's body was taken to the morgue. The baby was taken by a pediatrician. How this could happen, what happened, no one understood or knew. Jack was depressed. The man could do nothing at all. Now it was necessary to bury his wife and take his daughter from the maternity hospital. There was nothing at all in the man's mind. He was like a somnambulist, like he was walking and doing something, but he didn't realize it. Colleagues at the hospital were very afraid that because of this stress, Jack might give up the baby girl. They prepared for it, even prepared a speech to tell him when he came to talk about it, but Jack didn't. He went back to the birthing center where he still had his baby girl. Katie is mine, he stroked her head in her hand. Why Katie? The nurse standing next to him asked him. Lucy wanted to name her daughter that, he said. Okay, I'll leave you two here alone, the girl said, walking out of the room. Jack sat looking at the baby girl, talking to her. But then he thought that if he hadn't had that baby, Lucy wouldn't be dead right now. He removed his hands from her crib, turned away. In that same moment, the man realized he was wrong. What was the child's fault? After all, it was he himself who convinced his wife to do IVF, agreed with everyone. No, it's his daughter, it's Katie's memory. I'll never give her up and I won't give her to anyone, the man cried. Jack, you did good. You walked out of the room and met a good comrade. Thank you, the man nodded his head. He realized that now he had a huge responsibility. Well, we'll make out a maternity leave for you. He sat in front of the head doctor. I don't know what to do, what we will live on. One allowance is obviously not enough. Jack raised his eyes at the chief. All right, let's make a deal with you. You go on maternity leave, you don't worry about anything. But if there is any complicated operation or situation, we call you in, and then we pay you some money? The hen doctor looked at him. Okay, I think we'll be able to get by for a while, Jack said. But you should have a friend or any other person with whom you could put the child at any time of the day or night, the chief said. I realized the man walked out of the office. It didn't seem that bad. He picked up his little girl, his treasure, and went home with her. Not an hour later, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" the man asked as he came to the door. "Jack, it's Grandma Betty, the neighbor," he heard back. "Hello, come in," was the man surprised. Hi, the grandmother woman was carrying a big bag. Jack looked at her with surprise. "I'm here with my daughter. Sorry, I'm a little busy." Jack spoke as if embarrassed by the neighbor. "It's all right. I know it's hard for you to be alone. That's why I'm here." She went to the kitchen, put a bag on a chair, and started to take out everything that was in it. "What's this?" The man looked at her and listened to see if the girl was awake in the next room. "Jack, I'm alone. You're alone. I have nothing to do at home anyway, so I decided, and why not help a good man?" smiled the old lady and looked at the man. "Thank you, of course, but I would not like to bother anyone," said the man. He was uncomfortable. "Don't worry, it's fine," smiled Baba Badi. After that, she began to make herself at home here. Anna looked at what was in the kitchen. After that, she put all the things she had brought with her into the closet. After that, she went into the room where the crib was. "You are so good. How many things you bought? The main thing is that everything fits." She looked at the small things. "It wasn't me, it was Lucy when..." He couldn't continue. "And, well, stop nonsense. You now need to think about other things," said the woman. "It's okay." He went to the kitchen for a drink of water. From that day on, Grandma Betty became a frequent guest at Jack's house. Now he had no problem going out wherever he needed to go. The woman loved to take care of the baby. She bathed her, fed her, showed Jack how to change her diaper and everything else. Got it? Sometimes the neighbor would look at him. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done without you." He hugged the woman. "Come on, my darling." Anna realized that she might cry now, so she clamped her eyes shut so he wouldn't see it. It was easy together. Jack was called to work. He went there without any problems. He didn't have to worry about anything. "Jack, you should find a good woman now," a comrade and colleague at work told him. "I already have," he smiled. "No, your neighbor doesn't count. Yes, she's taking care of Irinka. But that's not it," John said and smiled. "Well, I won't say anything. I have a little daughter in my arms. First of all, I should think about her, not about some women. And I will never betray Lucy's memory, because I am to blame for what happened," he said sadly. "Tell me, what was your fault?" John touched his arm. "Look, I'm the one who made her participate in this. I made the deal. And most importantly, I'm the one who didn't save her." He closed his eyes with his hands and cried. Friend, calm down. No one is guilty of anything. Even if you were not after the operation then, there was still nothing that could be done." John tried to support him. "That's it, I have to go home." Jack got up from his chair and headed for the door. "Don't forget," his comrade looked after him. He didn't want to lose this man, neither as a friend nor as a good specialist. "You think you'll let me forget?" The man smiled and left the office. He had to go home. Lately, Jack thought he realized that Katie was being looked after. She wouldn't go hungry. She would be taken for a walk, changed, bathed. But he still didn't want to leave her alone. For some reason now, he remembered the words of his wife, who had told him about how a woman felt when life began in her. Jack felt such responsibility now. He was both daddy and mommy. "Oh, Jack, we're just about to go out." Anna greeted him at the door. "Let me help you." He took the stroller and together they went outside. "Are you coming with us?" she asked him. "If you allow me, I would rest a little." The man looked at the neighbor with a tired look. "Of course, go home. Everything is cooked on the stove. Put it on, eat, and go to bed," she said caringly, like a mother. He went up the stairs, and he didn't know who to thank. Lucy must have sent this kind woman to him. Jack couldn't imagine how he would have coped without her. Now that Katie was under Anna's watchful eye, there was nothing to worry about. Jack entered the apartment, which smelled delicious. He immediately made his way to the kitchen. At first, when the woman had offered him outside to eat, he had thought that the only thing he wanted now was to sleep. But the odors that wafted through the apartment awakened his appetite. When the man was in the kitchen, he took a plate out of the cupboard and poured some fragrant borscht into it. "Thank you, Baba Betty," he said aloud. Now the feeling of sleep and fatigue came over him so much that he was afraid he wouldn't make it to bed. The woman returned to the apartment. The girl was asleep. All was well. She saw the dirty plate in the sink. She smiled. That meant she had eaten after all. It meant Jack was coming out of his apathetic state. The months flew by quickly. Even though Jack was home, he traveled a lot for work. People wouldn't stop getting sick, and without a great surgeon, Sometimes it was just not manageable. Jack, you can't not come home tonight, Anna told him. Yes, I remember that today is my princess's birthday. He looked at Irinka with love. She was like 2 drops of water like Lucy. Now this little girl was the meaning of his life. When everything was finished at work, the man hurried to the store while it was still open. He bought a cake, candles, balloons, and was now rushing to where they were waiting for. Of course, he would want the 3 of them gathered around the table. Tonight it would be, except that instead of Anna, Jack would want Lucy. This is for you. A man entered the apartment and handed Grandma Nura a gorgeous bouquet of roses. Jack, why? The woman was embarrassed. I don't know how else to thank you for what you're doing. Without you, I'd probably go crazy. You look over the woman's shoulder, and a little girl was striding toward him from the room. Daddy, she threw herself around his neck. Haiti was wearing a beautiful blue dress, blonde curls shaking merrily on her head. The little girl's blue eyes just glowed. My princess, he lifted her in his arms, and then a small bouquet appeared in his hand. Beautiful, the girl didn't know many words yet, so she expressed her emotions sparingly. Happy birthday, kissed her father on her chubby cheek. And then they went into the room. There was a table with treats on it. Here, I wanted to please, said Anna. Why, who will eat all this and not understand the man? Nothing, the cake tomorrow you will take with you to work, treat your colleagues there, and put the hot food in the refrigerators, said the woman. You are so kind, and you help us so much, the man never tired of saying. It's a pleasure for me, or else I'd be sitting alone at home, growing old, she said sadly. At that moment, Jack thought for the first time that the woman might have no one else, and that she was wasting her love on them. At first, he hesitated to ask, but then he did. Tell me, Anna, do you have no one at all? He asked. Yes, it didn't work out like that. When I was young, I got married. We lived well, but he died. The woman was silent. So you never married again? Jack asked, now that they were talking about it. No, I never met anyone like my husband. She wiped away a tear that had slipped down her cheek. I'm sorry, he took her hand. It's all right. Enough about sad things. We have a party today. She looked at the girl who was playing with a doll her father had just given her. Let's eat cake, said Jack. He got up and went to the kitchen. There he took the cake out of the refrigerator, took out a candle, put it in, lit it. After that, he put out the light and went with the treat into the room. It was necessary to see the eyes of the girl, who saw a huge cake and a candle in the middle. She couldn't blow it out for a long time. Then her father helped her and made a wish for her. May everything go well in your life, he said, and looked at her. Life went on, and some time passed. Grandma Betty continued to take care of Kathy. One evening, when Kathy was already asleep, the woman got ready to go home. Don't go, let's have tea, Jack suggested to the neighbor. He didn't want her to be alone. Good, there are some cakes in the fridge, she mumbled. They sat down at the table. Jack didn't ask for anything. He stood up, poured the tea himself, put the cakes on the table. How are you doing? We don't talk that often. The man asked her. All is well, she smiled. Anna was always like that. You were talking about your husband then. Did he have no one? Jack asked to keep the conversation going. Why not? He had a sister. She lived in the village. She had a daughter late in life. After her husband was gone, I almost every day went to them. Silenced the woman. Understandably, the man didn't know what to say next. Selena lives there alone now. It's already hard for me to travel, so I'm here with you. The woman shook her head. Why doesn't she move to the city? Jack didn't understand. How many times I offered her, I have a good apartment, we could live. Everything was fine, but she wouldn't do it. I don't want to embarrass you, that's all, Baba Betty said. Yes, there are such people. Jack took a sip of tea. They were still sitting there drinking tea when suddenly the man's phone rang. I'm sorry, he got up from the table. That's all right, Anna realized he was very busy with his work, and it's not all that simple. It's people's lives that sometimes depend entirely on him. Abba, Jack answered when he was already in the hallway. John, urgently need your help, John called him. What happened? The man asked his friend. Come and see for yourself. John didn't say anything on the phone, though he'd always talked through the situation almost completely before. Okay, I'm coming. Jack couldn't stay indifferent to the situation. Anna. He fell silent and looked at the woman. Though, I understand, I'll stay with Katie. There's nothing to do at home anyway, she smiled. I'll be grateful for your kindness all my life. He went to his room and started to dress. Is it serious? The woman saw Jack back in the hallway. I don't know. They didn't explain anything. Just come right away. That's all. He put on his jacket because it was night and it was chilly outside. That's it. Good luck to make it work, the woman told him, and when he left the apartment, she crossed the door. Jack arrived. He walked into the lobby of the hospital, greeted those who were there, ran up to the second floor. John was at his office. Talk. There was no time, so Jack changed his clothes and listened to his friend. Jack. He stopped talking because he didn't know what to say. You're so quiet. It's like Lucy's there again. Jack knew it wasn't the best comparison, but let's go. John took him under his arm and they walked quickly down the hall to the operating room. When the surgeon entered there, he saw a woman on the table. She was lying on the table. Jack immediately assessed the situation. He was having a very hard time pulling himself together. She had just given birth, but bleeding had opened up, and saving her depended on him. Okay, blood pressure. He walked quickly to the table. He could see Lucy in front of him, and all he could think about now was that he had to save her. Yes, somewhere in his head he realized that it was not his wife, but he thought if he did not save her, he would be finished with his career as a doctor. All went well, needed blood. Good thing the blood bank had some, transfused it, and the woman stabilized. You okay? John came into the room where Jack was resting. I'm fine, but now I realized that there was really nothing that could have been done, he said quietly, without opening his eyes. I'm sorry I didn't tell you right away. I thought you wouldn't be able to do it without you, his friend told him. It's okay. He got up from his chair. He decided to go home. When he arrived, it was already light outside. He looked into his daughter's room. Katie was asleep. Anna was also here on the bed. With peace of mind, the man went to his room. Jack woke up to a wonderful smell. Anna was cooking something in the kitchen again. Daddy, his daughter, came over and hugged him. Hi, baby girl, he smiled at her and hugged her back. Jack, let's go to the kitchen. I'll feed you breakfast, even though it's lunchtime, said Grandma Betty. She was standing in the doorway. Okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. He went to wash up. They all sat together in the kitchen, Jack apologizing again for his work, and Anna only smiled. She looked at the man, saw how tired he was. His eyes were sunken, as were his cheeks, and in fact, he'd lost probably 10 pounds over the years. Listen, Jack, I'm going to make you an offer, but don't think I'm bored and want to get rid of you, the woman said and stopped talking. He put his fork away, worried that Anna would tell him that she wouldn't sit with Katie anymore. Remember I told you I had a niece living in the village? She looked at him. Well, yes, I remember. So what then? Jack looked at her. So you could take your daughter and go there to the village. Take a break from everything, Anna told him. I'm afraid I can't do that, he looked at her. Why not? She didn't understand. You see how often I'm called to the hospital, I'll just be torn. He looked out the window and said to the woman, Don't you worry, my niece Selena is a very good girl. She is such a hostess, you can't even imagine it. I assure you, take Arishka and go to the village. Your colleagues will do without you. At least once do something themselves. Then they will realize that sometimes a person needs to rest, said Anna. You know, maybe I should really listen to you. Leave everything and go away. He looked at her. That's right, do that. Anna clapped him on an arm. Maria had completely cut back on her spending, but her paycheck alone still wasn't enough. The money would run out a week before the next paycheck came in. Every time she started to tell her husband about it, he changed his face. I don't understand where you spend the money. The man began to get agitated. You and I don't eat truffles and oysters. We don't go to restaurants, and we don't have any money. Harry, groceries are expensive. Plus, I have to pay the rent every month. And then my boots broke. I had to buy new ones. You could have had your boots repaired. It would have been 5 times cheaper. Harry raised his voice. Maria was silent, her head lowered. The man suddenly came up to her and put his arm around her shoulders. Well, do not take offense. Do not pout. I just want that in the future we had everything. And if we do not think about it now, then we will live in an old apartment and without a car. And you take more clients, then we will be enough to live. I'm saving my salary. How much her husband was saving, Maria did not see and did not know. Harry taught her to save on everything, telling about a stable and secure future, but he was not going to save on himself. At lunchtime, the man went to a restaurant, not to the canteen or cafeteria, as many other employees. Home often came by cab, and when Maria with 2 bags of groceries came in a car with checkers, scolded and reprimanded her. "You're crazy. You could use this money for a week on the bus back and forth to work and back. The bags are heavy, Harry." Maria excused herself. "So what if they're heavy? It's not like you're carrying them. You could have gotten on the bus and carried your bags." Maria suddenly became angry. "I'll tell you what, Harry. Then we'll go to the market and shopping together at the weekend to buy groceries for the week. I'm tired of carrying those bags. My arms were shaking from fatigue for an hour and my back still hurts." "No way. I rest on the weekends. I have to work hard to provide for our family, so you can't touch my weekends. I have a legal right to lie on the couch, not run around town with bags." That time they had their first fight. Maria realized that gradually all the domestic problems were falling on her head. Harry did not become a support, although no one who knew him could say anything bad about him. Neighbors greeted him, bowed politely. My, what a husband Maria has found. Always tidy, sober, it is obvious that the money, and after all, her father was a real alcoholic, said among themselves neighbors on the bench at the entrance. However, the acquaintances Maria and Harry, especially with no one, did not lead anyone. They visited Natalie and Harvey occasionally, and sometimes they came to their house. Harry didn't like such meetings. If you went to visit, you had to buy a cake at least, and that was a waste of money. Inviting them over to his house again, they'd have to give them something to eat. Why should we do that? We're fine together, he told Marie in a way that made it hard to argue. One day at work, Natalie asked Maria, "Are you going to have a party this weekend?" "What's the occasion?" Maria didn't understand. "What? Don't you know?" Natalie's eyes bulged at her friend. "Your Harry has successfully passed his probationary period, and now he is the deputy director of the firm. Harvey told me yesterday. I thought it would be a good occasion to get together and celebrate." "You know, Natalie, that Harry is not a fan of such gatherings," said Maria, while she wondered why her husband had not told her about it. "Listen, is he going to have a bigger salary now?" "Why will be he already for the last month, which was a probationary period, 50% more received." He was bragging to my Harvey himself. Maria felt a chill inside her, an unpleasant lump in her throat, and her eyes darkened for a moment. She leaned back in her chair. "Are you sick, friend?" Natalia got worried. "Come on, sit down." The girl sat Maria on the chair. She waved a magazine in front of her face so that Maria would come to her senses faster. "Why did I have to tell you everything? I always mind my own business," Natalie grumbled to herself. "It's not about you," Maria said quietly. "It's about me. I'm pregnant." "What are you talking about?" Her friend gasped as she stopped waving the magazine in front of Maria's face at the news. "Does Harry know?" "Not yet. I was going to tell you today." Natalie's joyful surprise was suddenly replaced by thoughtfulness. She sat down next to Maria. "Isn't it a bit early for you to have children? Nowadays everyone tries to get on their feet first and then have children." "What are you talking about, Natalie? Children don't come from a purse of money, but from love. I really want a son. I want him to be as pretty as my little brother. I wish he were here right now." "Oh, Maria, I don't think your Harry will like the news very much. I remember how he talked about building a house, buying a car, seeing the world on trips abroad, and then having children." In the evening after dinner, Maria decided to share the main news with her husband. "Harry, we're going to have a baby," she said, pressing herself against her husband, who was sitting on the sofa, watching TV. "What?" Harry didn't immediately understand the meaning of what Harry said. "I'm saying I'm pregnant," Maria repeated. "We're going to have a baby. A daughter or a son." The man turned to Maria, looked at her carefully. For 2 minutes her husband was silent. Maria even began to worry, and then smiled and said, "Great news. I did not think that so early it will happen, but maybe even for the best." "Of course it's for the best. Children are a joy in the family." "Listen, Maria," Harry slightly pushed his wife away from him. "How often do women give birth to twins?" "I don't know." "I mean, what are the odds that we could have twins?" The man's eyes glistened as if he found a treasure. "Actually, it depends on genetics, who had twins in the family, and then they have twins." "Did you have twins?" "Who?" "Maria. Twins, I'm asking. Did you have twins in your family?" Maria felt some abnormal excitement in her husband's voice. "I don't think so," she answered uncertainly. "We also did not seem to have." "Oh, shit," he thought, and then said, "Just if twins were born, we would immediately maternity capital could be issued. We need money for new housing." Maria looked at her husband in surprise. She did not think about it. Maria was much more worried about the fact of pregnancy. Here you are funny. One would still give birth and raise, and you immediately twins. She quietly pushed his palm in the forehead. I'm not funny, but rationally thinking. Why go to the maternity ward twice when you can shoot off in one go? Harry frowned. Oh, come on. We'll have this one, and then we'll have the second one. We can't miss this opportunity, now that the stake is paying for a second child. That night, Harry was especially tender with Maria, and she felt happy. Children change a lot of things in a family. So with the birth of their firstborn child, small disagreements and misunderstandings would disappear. That evening, she forgot to ask her husband about his new position and salary increase, and after all went home full of determination to ask him to allocate some amount for the household. It's time to update Maria's closet. Buy fall shoes need new and coats. The first months of pregnancy, Maria, as if on wings, flew. It seemed to her that she became even more energetic, more efficient. Clients at work was just enough. When they learned that Maria was pregnant, women congratulated her. Congratulated the employee, and the owner of the salon, Anna, however, added, only who will work now. But do not worry, Anna. To you in the salon, anyone would be happy to work, wanted to reassure her Maria. And Maria, do not need. I need a professional, and that the level is not lower than yours. And our clients love you too much. And I'm not going to stay on maternity leave for long. I think I'm gonna get a job pretty soon. I have a grandmother to take care of the baby. That would be very nice, Maria. Very good. And in the second half of the pregnancy, the problem started. Maria began to get better, needed new comfortable clothes and shoes. But her husband was in no hurry to dress the woman. Where do you go? He said. To work and back. And there you sit at your table. No one to show off to. I just can't fit into my old clothes. I don't feel comfortable in them. Soon there will be nothing left to wear. We can't spend the money I'm saving now. You earn money, so buy with your own. Maria was upset. Just today, on her way home from work, she had spent everything she had left in her purse. But her husband was undoubled. So as not to incite a scandal, Maria borrowed money from Natalie and the next day bought herself a jacket 2 sizes larger than she needed. She decided that the jacket was not fashionable and did not suit her at all. Her friend only shook her head. I don't know why Harry won't give you money. I saw him yesterday, going into the restaurant at lunchtime. Natalie resented him. He has money for a good meal, but not for new clothes for his wife, especially when you're carrying a baby under your heart. That would be my coca. Maria, tired to listen to what Harvey carrying, that he does not spare money for his beautiful wife, buys her gold jewelry, and recently she wanted a mink coat, and he did not hesitate to buy her a luxury upgrade. Matching Harry from the already stingy man turned into a real stingy man. Whatever Mary asked him for money, he always refused, saying that it was not the time to spend. And the last time, when his wife showed him a prescription written by a gynecologist, he generally made a scandal and left, slamming the door. And Maria only needed to buy vitamins. Hemoglobin is low. The owner of the beauty salon, Anna, began to point out to Maria more and more often on her appearance. She did not like the look of an employee who takes rich clients. Have you seen our sign? It says beauty parlor. Beauty, you know what I mean? Everything from the furnishings to the staff must breathe beauty. Everything here should be pleasing to the eye. Tell me, who would come here if I have employees who look more like scarecrows than nail technicians? Clean yourself up, Maria, or else. Natalie also told her friend that there were rumors in the salon that Anna wanted to fire Maria, and the main reason was that she looked inappropriate for the beauty salon. Natalie again and again helped Maria with money. She tried to find something not too expensive, but decent. It was very difficult to do. And when Harry saw her wearing a new sweater, which went very well to his wife's eyes and covered her growing belly, he again made a scandal. I work like an ox. I work like a hard laborer to ensure that we have a good life, and you spend money on the right and left. You want vitamins, you want new clothes. If I had known that you are so greedy for money, 100 times I would have thought whether to marry you or not. Her husband's words hurt Maria. She did not understand why she should dress like a beggar. Maria had not done her hair for a long time because she did not have enough money for it. She just pinned her hair at the back of her head to keep it out of the way. They've been living together for over a year now, and she still didn't have anything in her closet to brag about, not a single decent new piece. Maria hadn't told either her grandmother or Natasha how they had celebrated their wedding anniversary. She was very ashamed. Honey, Do you remember that next weekend is our first wedding anniversary? Maria asked Harry at dinner. Yes. Wow, time has flown by, you replied, pulling away from the cutlet. How are we going to celebrate our first holiday together? Maybe we'll go out together, like to a restaurant. Maria, you know I don't like such events. Restaurant food is very expensive, and we need to save money. Maria thought that you didn't save money on himself, eating in catering establishments of not the lowest level, but she decided to be more persistent, even made a resentful look. If you don't want to go to a restaurant, let's have dinner at home, invite your mom, my grandmother, Natalie, and Harvey. We could set a nice table and celebrate. Harry didn't like the idea of feeding guests at his own expense any more than he did going to a restaurant. He thought about how much a dinner party would cost and decided against it, choosing the lesser of two evils. Let's make a deal, Nari said after thinking about it. We'll go with you to the restaurant alone. After all, it is not good to miss our first family holiday. Only pay each will pay for themselves. Maria looked at her husband with surprise, mixed with shock. Well, why? I eat little, and you are now, as not in himself everything from the table sweeps away. It's not my fault that you eat a lot, so you pay for what you order at the restaurant. Maria didn't know what to say to such a suggestion, but she was so tired of being only at work and at home that she agreed. Maria called her grandmother and asked to borrow money until payday, but maybe said, "Of course I'll give you money, but not as a loan. It'll be my first anniversary present to you. You buy yourself something nice, okay?" Maria promised that she would spend the money given by her grandmother on herself and not on groceries for her husband. She didn't say that they were going to a restaurant, but that they would pay for themselves. Grandma would simply not understand such an act of her husband. On a sunny spring day, Maria and Harry had a daughter, Anna. The girl could not look at the baby girl. Tiny newborn girl with blue eyes greedily sucked her breasts. "You are hungry, my little girl, eat, you will be big and smart." Maria herself was content with what was given in the hospital canteen. The food left much to be desired, but they had to eat everything, so that the milk would not be lost. Harry came under the windows of the maternity hospital the day after the birth and asked to see the baby. It seemed that he was not satisfied with being the father of a daughter. Harry dreamed of a son, but he and Mary did not know until the lad who would be born. The examination did not show. He said that with boys is easier and do not need to spend a lot of money on outfits, bought a couple of jeans and t-shirts and enough. Maria was happy about her daughter. Looking at the baby, she thought that very soon she would dress her up in beautiful dresses, braid pigtails, tie bows. However, she would be glad to have a son as well. The main thing is that the child is healthy, eats well, and sleeps a lot. While Maria stood at the window, showing her husband the baby, a nurse came into the room. She brought a transmission from Harry. Maria put the baby girl down, opened the package. She wanted something meat, but her husband gave her oranges and apples. The nurse shook her head when she saw the package. Who carries such fruit for nursing mothers? Apples would make the baby sick, and oranges would make her allergic. God forbid. Maria found 2 buns in the bag as well. She decided she'd have some tea. Soon she and Anna would be discharged, and she would cook herself a normal, nourishing, and caloric meal at home. On the appointed day, Maria was getting ready for discharge. She couldn't wait to let her husband hold the baby. Here will take her in his arms and realize that she is a real treasure, thought the girl, looking at her daughter, which at this time the nurse swaddled in a beautiful blanket with pink ruffles. When she learned that her granddaughter had given birth to a girl, Maddie rushed to the store to buy a dowry, and for the discharge handed over the swaddles, diapers, blankets, and a cute hat, so that the baby was packed properly. At home, everyone looked at Anna. The little girl was sleeping peacefully in her crib. Harry's mother looked for familiar features. Well, she didn't look at all like little Genka. He was dark, and she is quite light, blue-eyed. A child looks like himself. Maddie interrupted her. If everyone looked like their fathers, there'd be clones all over the world. They say children grow, Maria added conciliatingly. They may look like their mother at first, but they grow up to look like their father, or even like their grandmother. I don't know, when Harry was born, everyone was saying that he looked like his father, snorted Maria's mother-in-law. And it was like Harry didn't care at all. He carried the baby around the room in his arms for a while, and then handed her to her mother. She was still a baby. What would he do with her? Harry didn't get any more generous with the birth of his daughter. You still sake on every little thing. Maria received a child allowance, but it was woefully inadequate. Every time she asked her husband for money, he became more and more angry. She was also dissatisfied with the fact that the baby cried at night. "I have to work in the morning. Calm her down," he hissed through sleep at Maria. "You do not let me sleep properly." And Anna's teeth began to erupt. The girl became restless, not eating well and little sleep. She calmed down only on a walk, so Maria tried to walk longer on the street with a stroller. "Grandma, stay here with Anna. I'll run to the store," Maria asked Madi. She ran to get some formula milk. There was not enough milk because of the poor nutrition. Her grandmother saw all this and felt sorry for her granddaughter. More than once she advised her, "Go away from him, my dear, and live with Anna. Why can't we cope? She brought you up alone and raised you on your feet, and here we'll be raising a little girl together. It's not good to leave a daughter without a father. Maybe everything will get better, with hope," which was melting every day, said Maria. Grandmother was the only support for the young mother. Despite her frequent poor health, Nadi went to Mary to help with the baby, and sometimes gave her a chance to sleep, seeing that Mary was very tired. The husband didn't help at all. He was often late at work, and lately he suddenly had some business trips. One day he left for a few days without even coming home, straight from work. "I'm going away for a few days on a business trip," was all Harry said on the phone. "For how long?" Maria asked. "No, just for a week." "What about Anna and me?" "Tell your grandmother to come and help you." "Harry, I have no money. I need to buy diapers and formula for the baby." Maria knew that now he would start to tell her that she overfeeds her daughter, that too often changes diapers, and in general, when he was a baby, no diapers were not bought, as it was managed. But her husband, for the first time in many months, did not scream and did not begin to reproach Maria in wastefulness. "I left you some money on the shelf in the hallway. Buy what you need. Come back soon," was all Maria could say as Harry hung up the phone. Looking at the few bills her husband had left for her and her daughter, Maria wondered how to spend them properly. She would have a whole week to somehow pull on those cents. Maria called her grandmother, wanting her to come over for the time Harry would be away. "I'm sick, Maria," Maddie answered in a weak voice. "What's the matter with you?" "It is known what? Pressure. Yesterday the neighbor called an ambulance. They gave me a shot, wanted to take me to the hospital, but I refused. How can I leave you and Anna? I'll just lie down for a while, and then I'll come back. Harry's away on a business trip, and I wanted you to stay with me for a week. I'd look after you." "Come on, girl, you have to cope with Anna on your own, and then you'd have to look after me, a sick old woman." Maria was worried about her grandmother. Lately, her blood pressure was often spiking, and the old medications didn't help. It was necessary to go to the district therapist, but one grandmother could not, and Maria had no time at all. Maddie would lie down for a few days and then get back on her feet again. "As long as I live, Maria will not leave," she thought, and went to her granddaughter and great-granddaughter, carrying in a bag of rudimentary products. Grandmother knew that at home Maria's refrigerator was almost always empty. "How can Harry not see that you sit here hungry all day long? Where does he put his money?" Maddie was indignant, laying out groats, sausage, and a loaf of fresh wheat bread on the table. "He wants to build a big house so that we can live in it and bring up our children. I see what kind of educator he is. He hardly ever comes near my daughter." "He gets so tired, Grandma." Maria justified her husband. "He works a lot." "No, not the kind of husband you need," shook her head grandmother. "Where only looked my eyes when I blessed you on this marriage." "Grandmother, but Harry doesn't drink and doesn't beat me." That was the argument Maria always used to soothe herself in moments of resentment against Harry. She remembered how her drunken father had chased her mother around the apartment, how he had beaten her severely, and she had hidden in a small room with her brother. That's how it happens. Maria's mother and little brother did not know the need, never starved. The father gave money, leaving himself only for a drink. But the mother always suffered from beatings, and Maria knew from childhood, a drunken man carries danger. You need to stay away. But Harry doesn't take a drop in his mouth, even on holidays. But he's a cheapskate like no other. It's true. Your Harry doesn't drink, and that's good." Maddie rocked Anna in her arms. "You'd think with a life like that, it'd be better." "What are you saying, Grandma?" Maria was indignant at Maddie's words. "If Daddy hadn't been drinking, hadn't hurt Mommy, we'd all be together now. I never would have lost my little brother. I loved Archie so much. I still have that picture." The girl went to the shelf, where in a simple plastic frame stood the photo, discovered by her grandmother in a letter from her daughter. Maria looked sadly at her mother and little Archie on her lap. What was wrong with them now? Are they alive? What if they are in need? What if they are starving? Don't think about that, her grandmother interrupted her. Your mother, if she's alive, won't be lost, and she certainly won't make Archie starve. It's just not the time yet. Time for what? Matey was silent for a moment, and then she handed the sleeping Anna to Marie to put her in her crib. Her husband returned from his business trip in a surprisingly good mood. He played with Anna while Marita sorted through the gift bags. There were baby clothes, even a dress, and some groceries, obviously not bought at their neighborhood store. Harry, what a beautiful dress. It's a little big, but my daughter is growing up fast. She'll be able to wear it soon. Yes, I chose it myself, my husband answered proudly. Expensive though, but it's for my daughter. There are also toys for her, look. Funny, she pulled out animals, rattles, letters on magnets. What's the alphabet for? She's too old to learn letters. She'll grow up, Maria, and we won't notice how she'll grow up. Harry smiled, and Maria was happy. She had not seen her husband in such a good mood for a long time. Besides, everything's getting more expensive, so we have to stock up. I went to the bakery and bread is $2 more expensive again. Why don't we buy a bag of flour and bake it ourselves in the oven? It'll be cheaper? I don't have time to bake. I'm with the baby all the time. Grandma will help, Harry said. By the way, have you ever had her? She did, but she's been sick a lot. Harry seemed to have missed the words. Why don't you get your daughter ready? I'll take her for a walk in the yard, and you cook something special for dinner. You've got groceries. You've got a whole bag. Maria was glad. Harry was not very happy to be around Anna, and now he was going for a walk with his daughter. She quickly dressed the baby, came down from the entrance following her husband, who rolled out the stroller. Everything will get better and live like people, she thought, looking out the window as her husband and daughter walk on the paved path. Maria picked up her cell phone and swiped her finger across the screen to look for dinner ideas on the internet. On her social media page, she saw a photo sent to her. The photo showed a smiling Harry in swim trunks and a girl in a bright pink swimsuit. They were standing under a palm tree on a beach with golden sand. Maria's heart hammered harder. What did that mean? Her husband wasn't on any business trip, but went on vacation to a resort. And who was this girl? A casual acquaintance, or was she vacationing with her? A mistress? When her husband and daughter returned from the walk, Maria undressed the baby and began to set the table. She didn't know how to bring up the fact that an explicit photo had appeared on her page. Maria set the table, sat her daughter next to her in a high chair. Her satisfied husband was eating a chop with mashed potatoes. Oh, I miss home-cooked food. Harry really didn't eat much at home, more and more at restaurants. He said he'd starve to death before he got home, so he had to eat in cafes. Do you know what this is? Maria asked, showing her husband the photo on her phone. Harry stared silently, and the girl waited for him to start explaining. But her husband didn't even think to be embarrassed or make excuses. Wow, did you really come out well? He asked his wife. Where are you and who is with you? Maria asked. What's your business? Yes, I went on vacation. Harry jumped up from the table, his voice becoming cold again. Do you know why? Because I need a vacation. I work hard to earn money for us to have a normal life. I work like an ox to make sure you don't need anything in the future. I save money on everything. Can I afford a vacation once in a while? You're not working hard, sitting at home all day. I'm with our baby, so I don't work. Maria tried to justify herself. There's no need to cover yourself with a child. Maria is already a year and a half. Send her to a nursery or let the grandmother sit with her. I alone with your appetites cannot feed you. No, look at me. I work every day, earn money, and she finds time to sit on social networks and follow me. Maria did not have time to say that she does not follow her husband, that the photo was sent to her by someone unknown, but he had already slammed the door, shouting, I'm going for a walk. I've ruined everything again, and the evening was starting out so well. Maria thought as she cleared the dirty dishes from the table. She decided that tomorrow she would go to the beauty salon to find out about getting out of maternity leave. I have no vacancies at all, indifferently looking at the former employee, who was the best nail technician a year and a half ago, said Anna. I have nowhere to take you, Maria. Maybe at least for a few hours? I have my own clients. I could work with them. It is absolutely impossible. The boss disapprovingly looked at the old suit of the girl and also noticed the lack of good makeup and faded complexion. I wanted to call you myself to write your own resignation. I don't meet employees with small children. Babies are often sick. Leaving the salon, Maria ran into her old friend Natasha. Mother, why are you here? She was surprised. Yes, I wanted to go back to work, but Anna suggested that I quit my job altogether. Soon they will stop paying Anna's allowance, and it will be very hard without money. I thought you didn't need money, Natalie said, lighting a thin cigarette. My Harvey said that Harry bought a trip to Turkey last month, but you don't look like you just come from a resort. Maria did not tell Natalia that her husband did not go on vacation with her, that she still needs money, and now she lost her job, which used to bring her a good income. In the evening, Harry asked Maria, "Did you go to the salon?" "Yes," she said as she poured tea for her husband. "When are you going to work?" "Do not take me, offer to quit," sadly replied his wife. "Well, here we are." Harry threw a spoon on the table. "You're going to sit on my neck until retirement. I feed you, dress you, pay the rent. It's all out of my pocket. It's not a long way to go with you. How much do you spend on us?" Maria tried to argue. "And you count your own, but do not meddle in my purse. I have everything thought out in my life. Everything will go to work. I'm fighting to build my own house, to vacation at resorts, to buy a car. So whatever you want, get out of it, take a job at home. Put an ad for at-home manicures, for God's sake. Enough, I'm sick of your freeloading." Everything Harry said was hurtful to Maria. She was ready to cry from hopelessness, from self-pity, but suddenly the cell phone rang. "Maria," a neighbor spoke in an agitated voice. "Come quickly, your grandmother was taken to the hospital by ambulance." Maria quickly dressed, explaining to her husband that she had to go to the hospital. She put her daughter on his lap and ran out the door. She got home a couple hours later. "Grandmother died," Maria said quietly, anticipating her husband's questions. "A heart attack." After the funeral, Maria sat at the kitchen window, watching the sun sink behind the trees. She had lost the last person close to her. Her husband had not become her family, and lately he had become distant, constantly disappearing on business trips. On the one hand, she felt better when he wasn't home, but on the other hand, she had no money for food. If Harry did not go anywhere, then at least bought food, from which Maria cooked food. He was not going to starve himself. 6 months later, Maria came into her inheritance. Maidie's apartment had gone to her. Harry rubbed his hands together, looking at the inheritance certificate. "You know what I've decided, Maria," he said, putting his arm around his wife. "We're going to sell both apartments and start building a house. I've already looked for a plot of land. It's in the country, but it's quiet, and the air is fresh." Maria imagined a beautiful large house with an adjoining territory, where there would be a playground for Anna and a lot of flowers. But where would we live while the house was being built? She worried. "Maybe you shouldn't sell the house. You've been saving almost all your salary to start the construction. How many times have I told you to stay out of my purse? The money I'm saving, we're gonna need it. We'll need furniture for the house and the car to live in the country. And besides, it's my money. I earned it with my own labor. Shouldn't you contribute to the construction of the house?" Maria sighed heavily. She was not ready to lose her parents' and grandmother's apartment overnight. Seeing his wife's doubts, Harry changed his tone. "Don't worry, we'll rent a spacious apartment for the construction period and live there for now. But in a year, we'll move into a new house. Can you imagine how good it will be for our daughter? She'll have her own yard, her own room." Harry always knew what to push. Maria would do anything if her daughter's welfare depended on it. They had sold Maidie's apartment quickly, but the house she had gotten from her parents had not found a buyer for a long time. Maria did not see the money from the sale of her grandmother's apartment. Her husband said that he put them in his account, and from there they will go to pay for the construction of the house. One evening, Harry took a suitcase out of the pantry and started packing. "Where are you going?" Maria asked in a whisper. Her daughter was sleeping in the room, and the girl was afraid to wake her up. "I'm going on a business trip." "For how long?" "A week and a half. The bosses send." Clearly, Maria thought that her husband again needed a vacation, but did not want to make a showdown. "He'll come back anyway. After such business trips, you became kind, attentive, even caring for a few days. At least leave us some money, because we're running out of groceries. I'm also out of money on my cell phone." Harry straightened up and frowned. He seemed to be calculating something in his mind. I don't have any extra money. It's all put away for construction. Get a job, I told you before. You don't even need money for a cell phone. Maybe you can stop surfing social media and stalking me. But how will I be able to call you, if anything? Maria got worried. Nothing to call me when I'm on a business trip. I'll call you myself, and incoming calls on your tariff are free. Left home alone, Maria thought about how to earn money. She took a notebook and a cell and a pen, wrote a handwritten advertisement for the services of a master of nail service, at the end of which she indicated her phone number. While Anna slept, Maria went downstairs and pasted the papers on the doors of her house. When she returned, she pulled her tools out of her dresser. Orange sticks, scissors, nail clippers and scissors, tweezers, scrapers for a minimal service. That's enough. But there were very few nail polishes left. Some dried up and went to the trash. Well, nothing. A few days will last, and there, maybe someone will turn to the ad, hoped Maria. But neither tomorrow, nor the day after tomorrow nobody called. Standing at the windowsill, she watered the houseplants she had brought from her grandmother's apartment. The flowers had time to wither, but care and care did their job. Fresh leaves appeared. Only plants can live on water alone, but what about Anna and me? Thought Maria. The water in the small watering can, from which she watered the flowers, ran out. Maria moved the flower pot to the coffee table and went into the bathroom to put the container under the sink. Anna was playing with her toys on the floor. Suddenly, Maria heard a loud wheeze. She ran into the room. Her daughter was lying on the floor wheezing. She was desperately panting. Her body had become absorbent cotton. Maria, in a panic, grabbed the phone, began to dial the number of the ambulance. The girl remembered that she had no money on her phone, so she could not call the doctors. Not knowing what to do, the girl grabbed her suffocating daughter in her arms, ran out of the apartment without even getting dressed, and quickly went downstairs. She ran out to help, saw a car stopped in front of her driveway. "Please help," Maria shouted. "My daughter is suffocating." The driver jumped out of the car. He was a young, well-dressed guy in his 20s. "What's wrong with her?" "I don't know, she's choking," cried Maria. "Get in quickly," said the guy, and opened the back door of the car. "Tell me where to go. I'm not from around here." Maria pointed the way to the hospital, but she herself only prayed that she would be able to get the girl there in time. Anna had already stopped wheezing, almost didn't breathe. "My little one, now be patient. We will be in time and they will help you." The car stopped at the steps of the emergency room. The guy opened the car door, took the girl from Maria's hands. "Where to?" he asked, but he was already hurrying to the front door. Maria rushed after him. "Help, the child is bad. My daughter is suffocating," shouted Maria, calling for help. In a matter of seconds, the girl was put on a gurney, taken away, and Maria and the strange guy were left alone in an empty room. Being in a state of shock, the girl did not notice that there was someone else next to her. She sat down on a chair against the wall, covered her face with her hands, and cried quietly. "Calm down, everything will be all right." The strange man put his arm around her shoulders. Only now was she beginning to perceive what was happening realistically. He had helped her without even asking what had happened. Helped her without asking too much. The girl looked at the stranger with gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me, you're welcome." The guy replied, "You're shivering. Put on my jacket for now." He took off his outer garment and carefully covered Maria's shoulders. They sat in silence for a while. Maria couldn't understand what had happened to her daughter. All day she was calm, playing with toys. There were no signs of cold. The girl did not complain about her tummy. And suddenly, such a terrible wheeze. "How old is your girl?" suddenly asked the guy. Immersed in her thoughts, Maria completely forgot about him. "A year and 9 months," she replied. "Ah, why did you leave?" "Thank you very much for your help, but you should probably go about your business." She started to pull off the stranger's jacket, but he put it back on her shoulders with a warning motion. "Don't worry, I'm in no hurry at all. In fact, it's important for me to know what's wrong with your little girl. I'm kind of in charge of her now. To tell you the truth, I was very scared for the girl and for you. You look like that." The guy held out his hand to Marie. "I'm Archie." Maria smiled faintly and held out her hand. His palm was warm. The light shake cheered the girl up. "I was really scared. Anna is my only and favorite daughter. I don't know what will happen to me if something happens to her." "Everything will be all right. there are doctors here. They will definitely help. Archie tried to reassure her. Thank you. Maria looked into his eyes. They were the same sky blue color as her daughter's. Are you the girl's parents? The doctor asked. He looked about 40 years old. Maria stood up, unable to even ask what was wrong with Anna, looked at the doctor silently. Yes, it was we who brought her, Archie answered instead of the girl. And it's good that we brought her ourselves, instead of waiting for an ambulance. I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to save her in time. Maria felt her legs shaking from the doctor's words. The doctor noticed her agitation and hurried to calm her down. Everything is fine now. Don't worry so much. Your daughter has a severe allergic attack. We washed her stomach. Apparently the allergic shock was caused by a plant leaf, which the girl swallowed. Now we've given her a shot. She'll lie down for a while, and you can take her home. And for the future, try to watch what the child pulls in his mouth. Maria realized that Anna had reached for the flowers she had left on the coffee table. I'll throw it away as soon as I get home, Maria thought to herself. For 2 hours she sat in the emergency room, with the guy who had helped her out so much in a dangerous moment by her side. When Anna was carried out by a nurse, Maria jumped out of her chair and rushed to hug the little girl. But she only flapped her eyes. Tears sprang from the mother's eyes. Her Anna is alive. She's all right now. Archie drove them home, stopped the car right in front of the driveway. I don't know how to thank you, Maria said. And you give me some tea, he said, smiling. I'm very thirsty for something hot. Well, let's go. Maria headed for the entrance, thinking that she had nothing for tea. Good thing there was still some brew in the tin. Come in, and she invited Archie in, pushing open the front door. She had left it unlocked in her haste. The guest undressed, went into the room, looking at the furnishings. In the car, Anna fell asleep. Apparently that was the effect of the medicine she had been given in the hospital. Maria tiptoed into the bedroom, put her to bed, and returned to Archie. I'll put the kettle on now. The boy nodded in response. She returned to the room a few minutes later, carrying 2 cups of brewed tea on a tray and a sugar bowl with some sweetener still in the bottom. I'm sorry, I don't have anything to buy you, she said guiltily and put the tray on the table. It's all right, and let's be on a first-name basis, Archie suggested. After all, today we saved a child, and such feats should bring us closer together. She really felt that this guy she didn't know had become very close to her in a few hours. Come on. Oh, come on, Maria said and laughed softly. Archie sipped from his cup and looked around. Suddenly his gaze stopped on a framed photograph that stood on the shelf next to the TV. He stood up and moved closer. May I? Archie asked, pointing at the picture. Yes, of course. He sat down again, holding the picture frame with the picture of Maria, her parents, and her little brother. Is that your family? He asked. Yes, only no one is around anymore, Maria replied. Suddenly the guy got up and headed for the hallway. When he came back, she opened her wallet and took out a small photograph. Look, this is me as a child. He handed the picture to the girl. Her little brother Archie was looking at her from the picture, only he was a little older than Maria remembered him. She looked perplexed, looking at the picture and Archie, and he was smiling. That's me. A long time ago, my mother fled abroad from this town from my father, who threatened her with a knife. My mom said he drank a lot and beat her, so she had to go into hiding. Recently, I turned 20 years old, and my mother told me everything about her past. She was sick by then, cancer. Archie was silent for a while, and Maria looked at the boy in the picture and thought she was having a strange dream. She couldn't help but notice that Archie in the family photo and this boy were the same person. I'd always knew I had a grandmother, a dad, and an older sister left in the U.S. As my mom was dying, she asked me to find my grandmother and sister Maria. So when I buried her, I came here. Archie found my grandmother's house, wanted to talk to her first, but the neighbor said that the old lady died not so long ago and the apartment is for sale. She also told me that my sister lived in my parents' old apartment, Archie continued. I knew the name of the town, the street, and the house number by heart, but the apartment number had slipped my mind. My grandmother's neighbor didn't know it. Then I decided that I would find my sister, even if there were 1,000 apartments in this house. I drove up to the house, and then you came running out with your daughter in your arms. Maria looked at the guy and couldn't believe it was happening to her. Was this really her brother Archie? It turns out it is, but it's so unbelievable, it's hard to believe what's happening. I thought I'd go to all the apartments, Ask around the courtyard and find my sister. I mean you." He looked at Maria with a look of warmth and joy, and she was completely speechless. The boy and the girl hugged tightly. Two relatives, separated for almost 20 years, were again next to each other. Tears flowed down their cheeks. They were tears of joy and happiness. The unexpected meeting completely changed Maria's life. All week her brother was near her, not a minute away from her and her little niece. They walked together, went shopping. Archie liked to please his sister updates, buy her baby toys and beautiful things, and when they came home, they cooked dinner together. Maria made dumplings, saying, "Our mother loved to make dumplings. She made so many of them that sometimes they didn't even fit in the freezer. Then she would take them out on the balcony. In the wintertime, there were several boards there." Brother and sister felt happy. Maria forgot that her husband would be back soon. While he was away, she talked a lot about her life, about the fact that Harry constantly reproaches her with a piece of bread, does not give her money for food. The girl did not complain, but simply answered her brother's questions and constantly tried to justify her husband. "You see, he is very frugal. He wants to build us a house. That's why he saved all the money. And now we sold grandmother's apartment and put this one up for sale." "Sister, with such a husband you will stay on the street." It was obvious to Archie that her husband was just fooling Maria's head to make a profit at her expense, and he was living at his own pleasure. One day Archie was suddenly going somewhere. "Are you going to be long?" my sister asked. "I don't think so," he said, buttoning his jacket. "When I get back, we'll go for a walk. The weather is great, frost and sunshine." By the time Archie returned, Maria had fed and packed Anna. They dressed warmly and went for a walk. Everyone was having fun, but Maria was worried about one question, and she finally decided to ask her brother, "Will you go away? Will I be alone again?" He looked at her carefully, hugged her and said, "And let's talk about it, only a little later, not now." In the evening, Maria, Archie, and Anna returned home. They had a wonderful time at the entertainment center, where there were rides for the little ones, and then sat in a cafe. Opening the door to the hallway, Maria saw her husband's suitcase. "Harry's back," she said. Her husband's voice came from the room. "Maria, you? Come quickly, we need to pack." Harry went out to meet his wife and daughter. "Who's this?" "Harry, this is my brother Archie. He came from out of the country to find me. I told you I had a brother, but I didn't know where he was. Here, Archie found me." The man looked at the boy with a blank stare, as if he were nothing. "Come on and quick, we'll pack. I sold the apartment. While you live in a communal apartment, I rented a room there, and I'll move to my mom's place for the construction of our house. We'll all be cramped in a communal apartment. Hurry up, Maria, you're not worth it." "And she doesn't need to hurry anywhere." Archie suddenly entered the conversation. "But you, man, you can go to your mother's house." "Shut up and mind your own business, you little brat," Harry snapped. Maria looked from her husband to her brother, not knowing what was going on. "Your husband sold the apartment under the power of attorney you signed. He had no intention of building a house, and he certainly didn't have you and your daughter in mind. I was able to find that out during my time in the city. It wasn't hard." Harry's broke as a whistle. "He doesn't have any of the savings he was telling you about. He just wanted your money like he got the money from selling our grandmother's apartment. And the day before yesterday, I bought that apartment from the realtors, and now it's mine." The guy took out a piece of paper and showed it to Maria and her husband. And then Archie opened the door and set Harry's suitcase in the stairwell. As the saying goes, get out. Archie pointed Harry's hand at the door, or for the particularly uneducated, get out, or maybe call the police. Harry had no choice but to leave. Archie gave Maria the deeds to the apartment, took Anna in his arms, hugged his sister and said, "Now you and I have two homes, mine abroad and yours here. Choose where you want to live." "Wherever you are," smiling, replied the sister. Now she felt that everything would be fine next to her beloved younger brother.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.